Welcome aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. You know, Richard, we've arrived at that point where we're recording on a Sunday morning to release this Wednesday, and I decided to actually shave so I didn't look like a wildebeest for our recording. And
you know, it's funny. I also shaved my head, which I never do in the morning.
Yeah, well, okay, but like this is where we're at, man. Especially for people that are watching. I'm like, I go into the closet and get changed, and there's the built sweatshirt, and the hand has to hover over it. I'm like, no, I can't match again. So I don't want to call you and ask you if we're gonna matchy because that's way too weird. So I've just now avoided.
It is a cozy sweatshirt.
It's a good sweatshirt, but I'm trying to avoid, this awkwardness. So here we are.
You know what I'm wearing? Do you know what this is? Can you tell what this is?
That's a shirt, Richard.
For everybody listening in the podcast.
Richard has a
can
shirt
you tell
on.
what I'm wearing? No, it's got the little. This is my Emirates first class pajamas.
Well, it's still a shirt, but yeah, okay, gotcha. Congratulations.
That I'm rocking this morning. It's the most comfortable pajamas. So yeah, I'm gonna keep rocking these.
You are rocking it. You really are. All right. Well, we're going to talk about both of our travels the past week, which both of us were in Disney, although at different times, which is sad. You had a brief bout with New York. Bilt has a new transfer partner. Air France lost their minds. We're going to talk about that. And we've also got a listener question. So we got a bunch of stuff on tap. But I had two things that I wanted to touch base on early in the episode. First off, and you're probably not the most relevant person for this because you don't drink coffee, although you do drink tea. You did have the mug up there. But for folks that are listening or watching, I have this dilemma. So I gotta drink coffee in the morning to function nowadays as an old man who never sleeps. But the cup doesn't stay warm long enough, and so I want something with a handle. I want it to stay hot for a long time. But my problem is that unless I'm gonna buy one of those Ember mugs that stays on for a while, if I buy a stainless steel mug or something, which I don't know how that's going to taste. I like a good ceramic mug, but if I buy a stainless steel mug that's supposed to keep it warm, if I still don't get through the coffee in time, now I can't microwave it because it's metal. So I'm stuck, man. And I know there's a listener that's going to solve this for me. And for all the people that haven't turned off the show, if you haven't stopped listening at this point, just let me know what your solution is.
I can identify with that because the same thing happens to me with tea. If I have too many meetings in the morning and I can't just sit there depending on who I'm talking to and chug tea, it gets cold. And if I don't have a ceramic mug, I can't go microwave it. So two solutions. One is if you have not tried the Yeti deal, the legit Yeti tumbler, it will keep your junk warm for a very, very long time.
Will it? Do I have to? I assume I have to keep the lid on it.
Yeah, you got to keep the lid on.
I don't love that, but that might be the sacrifice I make is to go because there's a Yeti coffee mug, not a big one, but a regular mug size with a plastic lid that I thought about. But then I don't know
anything about that.
It's $25, and
the metal
I hate it. I spent $25 on a coffee mug.
Yeah, well, you purchase return protection. Some cards still have that, right? You got to have the return protection.
I don't know.
Second thing is I think I bought Mrs. Kerr for last Christmas that she's never used once. So maybe I'll just send it to you. It's a little hot plate that you just keep your mug on.
The Ember?
And it plugs in.
The Ember?
No,
just a hot plate.
It's not. Just a little flat disc that is plugs into a USB, right there to your computer, wherever you are.
All right.
You just set your ceramic mug on it, and from the bottom, it just warms it up.
I like this.
And she microwaves her same cup of coffee 3 times because she forgets about it every single morning.
This is me.
And I was like, here you go. Just keep your coffee mug on this thing right here. And I was like, perfect. This would be the perfect present for her. It's thoughtful. I watch her. It'll solve a problem for her. It's never even come out of the box. never come out of the box, which I was like, oh, wow. I really thought that I scored a bingo here, but nope. So maybe I'll just send that to you.
I like that idea. But if anybody's got better ideas or if you have a mug that you love, let me know. I am nerdy about mugs. I do like a traditional ceramic mug, and then the other thing I want to mention, my other podcast, Results Junkies, we discussed a topic not last week but the week before that's relevant here, and I got a lot of feedback for it. And that show doesn't get as many viewers as this one does, so I figured I'd mention it here. You know this about me, but part of my day job is investing in startups, and I realized that I haven't been talking the talk in terms of walking the talk in terms of what we're trying to do. I am trying to invest in 10 new travel companies a year or startups that are trying to disrupt travel or travel adjacent spaces. And so if you're listening or watching and you're part of a startup or you have an idea and you're looking for funding, or if you know someone who is, well, shoot me an email, ed@pizzainmotion.com. would be the best way to do that because I'm having trouble filling the pipeline with travel specific deals. Getting tons of cold calls for all kinds of SaaS products out there, Mr. Kerr, but not a lot of travel stuff.
And to you content creators out there, no, it is not looking to fund your next trip. So we got to be a little bit more creative with it. Unless you're a content creator that has a product that's going to disrupt the space. But if you're going to send Ed a note that says, I'd love to, have somebody sponsor my next stay and I'll throw you a hashtag. That's not what he's after, ladies and gentlemen.
I did get that.
I know because I tried to read
I
down.
did get that pitch at one point from, I won't mention the folks, but they wanted to pitch me on, I think it was a seven-figure investment. Might have been a six-figure investment, but the value of the site was put in the seven-figure range, and it was for content creation. And it's like, yeah, but if you leave, it's not unique enough that I'm thinking about things like as you well know, I'm an investor in Point Me, which is a product we've talked about on the show before. They've got a new thing out that I want to do some testing on before we talk about it on the show. But products like that, Point Me, and then our buddy Julian Pointspath, who needs to get his butt on here and talk about that product with us at some point.
Yeah.
He's talking with everybody.
Very handy Chrome extension. Go download and install Pointspath.
Yes, pointspath.com. Pointspath.com. All right, so for folks who are just tuning in, you can find him on all those social media channels except for Threads, which he was nice enough to live delete on the show. He is at Curb Points. I am at Pizza in Motion in all those same places. If you want to leave us a voicemail or text us, which our listener question today was a text, you can do that at 571-293-6659. And if you want to support the show, you can subscribe to our Slack community. Now is a great time to do it because between now and the end of the year, I'm giving away a 1-year United Club membership for free to one member. We've also got a couple of Nomad Lane bento bags that we're going to give away. So lots of cool stuff. We're doing giveaways, happy hours, all that fun stuff. And Mr. Kerr was actually nice enough to drive the last happy hour when my wife got sick at the last moment. So I am truly thankful to you, Mr. Kerr.
Maybe we should do happy hour in the mornings when we're both up anyways, and that way I don't have to stay up. That's my bedtime.
I don't have an issue with that. We'll have to ask about that in the Slack community. And you know what? We probably would both be happier in the morning. As long as I have that hot plate heating up my coffee. So
yeah. All right. I got to go find that thing and see what. I bet she's like, oh, I give that to Salvation Army like 6 months.
Right? Yeah, exactly. All right. So first up, listener question, and this is from Seth. He wants to know, so just for high level, there is a great Frontier status match out there. It runs through the end of December. I asked Richard this question yesterday as a true expert that he was, when that Frontier status match that he qualified for ends, and he told me he didn't know. But I looked it up for you, Mr. Kerr. I looked up for you, and I won't tell anyone that you didn't know, but it ends December 31st, 2023.
Coming up.
Yeah, exactly. And so Seth's question, he says, hello, gents. I listen to and appreciate the podcast. Thank you. Thank you, Seth. Frontier status. Is there a promotion or a way to get top tier status if I don't have 100,000 miles or status? I looked this up, Mr. Kerr, in the terms and conditions, and unfortunately, they actually do include this in the FAQ. And the answer is no. But as you well know, it's not hard to get some level of status with somebody. So I think I would just, to whoever it is, it's thinking about this alongside Seth. I mean, think about the credit cards you have that might give you access to certain statuses. American Express cards that give you status. Some of the co-branded cards that do, and see if you can think about ways to take that status and match it to Frontier, because the list of companies that they will let you match to is pretty broad.
I was just about to say, remember, hotels and airline, hotels and cruises included here. Now, you're not going to get Frontier 100K, right, but you can get 50K, which is pretty great. And this is off of a ton of, look, if you're listening to this podcast, you have some kind of hotel status or cruise status. Yes. So, yes, frontierstatusmatch.com/FAQ. They have the lovely charts that tell you what matches to what for everything. And look, you can figure it out off of one co-brand card.
Yeah, you can. And
or if you happen to have, what is this here? If you just happen to be a Scenic Cruises Scenic Club Emerald member, you can also. Never heard of Scenic Cruises.
Whoa, yeah, that's a new one for me as well.
Yeah. It's in the chart. Right
I love it. Yeah, we'll include a link to the chart in the show notes. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely bunches and bunches of options. And I mean, I'm thinking of like I can never remember the names of all these darn cards. Hilton, is it the Aspire that has diamond?
Gives you the Hilton
diamond status. So I'm like, there's definitely options out there that don't cost a ton of money.
Yeah, and like the true podcaster I am, speaking of Frontier, man, I've had some very interesting Frontier flights over the last 96 hours.
Which we also call the normal Frontier experience.
The Frontier Tales. Is that what I said? Oh, I put a hashtag in our group chat yesterday. I'm trying to remember what Frontier Tales, I think is what I said. We should have a Frontier Tales segment every episode after we take a Frontier flight, because man, there were some wild things that happened just yesterday.
That is a great segue to our travel this week. So yeah, let's recap your Disney and Frontier experiences, Mr. K.
Yeah, came home from my last trip to New York City, which was lovely. Got to fly a Blade helicopter, which I'm never going back to a taxi again. I'm just kidding. I am, because I can't afford Blade.
But it is pretty awesome.
It was so awesome, man. Had a quick turn the very next morning with the family back where we booked $19 Frontier flights thanks to the 100K status, included extra legroom seats, check bag, carry-on, refundable, changeable, all that great stuff. So for $19 per person, we flew down to Disney, and then we flew home as of time recording yesterday. It was Saturday, December 16th. Man, all right, here's quick learnings and then quick stories.
Yep.
What I learned and I shared yesterday in the group text is the first 3 rows of a Frontier flight is extra space, extra legroom seating, which you get for free if you're a 100K member.
Yeah.
When you board, the flight attendants have the first 2 overhead bins on each side closed. And if you try and open them and put your bag up, because like we're the first people boarding, so I'm like, there's no way these are already full. Maybe it's, crew bags or whatever. The flight attendant's like, oh, those are saved for the first 2 rows. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm in the 3rd row in extra legroom. And they're like, put your bags up somewhere else. And I was like, okay, no problem. Like, we're the first. I was like, no problem, because we're the first to board on the flight down there. That also happened yesterday, but what happened is we had to board a little late because I had a sick daughter who had to go be attended to right before we boarded. And when we got on board, the overhead bins over row 3 were full and the first 2 bins were closed. And the flight attendant told me, you got to go put your bags somewhere in the back. And I was like, oh, man, by the time I found space for 4 carry-ons, we were over the wings, which, when it's time to deplane, you got to sit there and fight against upstream or just sit there and wait forever, which defeats the entire purpose of sitting up front. But as boarding was complete, the nice flight attendant came and tapped me on the shoulder, and she was like, hey, man, I can go get your bags. We'll move them up. And she opened up the bins over rows 1 and 2, and they were completely empty. And I was like, okay, lesson learned. I'm going to get the extra legroom seats. I'm going to shoot for row 2, not row 1, because then my kids can't keep the bags underneath their feet. But row 2, now I apparently have saved overhead bin space on every Frontier flight. Didn't know that, but after 2 flights, I'm making that conclusion. So lesson learned, aim for row 2 of extra legroom space, not row 3. And it is so weird. I don't know why that is, but there you go. So we're always going to be picking rows 1 or 2 to have dedicated overhead bin space. The weird Frontier tales. All right, this is where it got weird, man. And where actually Mrs. Kerr got uncomfortable. So
just Mrs. Kerr?
One thing about the first one was curious to me, didn't make me uncomfortable. It's just I was like, this is madness. First of all, the low-cost carrier gate areas in the Atlanta airport in Concourse D, which is very narrow and just started a widening project that will be done in 2029. Yes, 2029 is when they'll be done widening that terminal.
I like it.
It's madness, man. It's just there's not enough space. All the Spirit and Frontier board all their flights right there. It is a tiny gate area, and it is always just madness.
Is this didn't they do some of the changes down the very far end, or was that T that they changed that?
That was T.
Okay.
Yeah, they did it. Made T area very nice now and extended that for the mainline carriers. But D is always a goat rope, man. It just is. You got infrequent flyers. You got people who are nervous. Yeah, man, it's a goat rope down there.
I love the terms that you introduced to this podcast that I would never use. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 313, the goat rope.
It's the goat rope. But you got infrequent flyers who are nervous. Everybody's just standing up and trying to board early. Nobody's making way for Zoom. People just don't know the deal. They just want to get on the plane. So we're standing there way back. Emily and Mary have gone forward, and Thomas and I can't even make our way down to where our gate is, which is the very end of the terminal, or the 2 Frontier gates in D. And I hear a note. Thomas and I are just standing there waiting for the crowds to clear out, or if they call boarding, I'm just going to barrel my way through because we got to get those bags of the overhead bins over our seats. We're standing there, and I hear a weird buzzing noise. And I was like, what is that? I've never heard that noise before. And I look around, I turn to my left, and there's a gentleman standing next to Thomas who's in his late 40s, early 50s. And he just started shaving right there with his electric shaver. He just busted out. He's standing in line waiting to board. And my man is going to town. And no, this is not the shaver that catches all the clippings, ladies and gentlemen. So, I am I'm gonna, Thomas, let's go. And right there, I turned the shoulder sideways, got the bag behind me, Thomas right behind me, and I busted through the crowd to get away from the shaving man who was about to board our flight. Apparently, never seen a guy shave at the gate before. Seen plenty of people shave in the bathroom because you get off a red eye in international airport and you got to shave.
He's multitasking. He's multitasking, man.
Standing there in the gate, my man's shaving. So we get on the board. One thing that Emily does not like is she wants pilots and flight crew to be very serious and all about safety, which I am empathetic to and can appreciate. So if we get jokey flight attendants or jokey pilots when they're giving the safety briefing, she doesn't like that. She's like, I don't want jokes. I want everybody to be professional and all about safety here, which they are. You just got to do something to break up the monotony, I'm sure. So the pilot for the Frontier flight was very jokey, and Emily's always like, "No, I don't want any jokes. I want everybody I want to be serious here. I want." It just makes me start laughing. But then, what happens is boarding is going on kind of forever and ever. And usually Frontier and low cost carrier flights board very quickly because it's cheaper to pay for a check on than a carry on. Nobody's got people just board, and for whatever reasons, there's just a lot less stuff, and people board very quickly. So boarding goes past 30 minutes. And like, there's just confusion. Again, we're only on row 3, so I can hear the flight attendants. They start talking to each other. They start doing their counts where they go up and down the aisle and they look at their tablet and they see which seats are supposed to be empty. And the flight attendant up front talks to others. She's like, there's 15 people out in the boarding area who have boarding passes but no seat assignments. The gate agent just sent everybody down here and told them to find a seat. And this, of course, just divulges into mass confusion. And what happened was, like, the flight attendants are like, just like, why did they send them down here? They start arguing. They start trying to call the gate agent to come down. And like, why are you sending these people down without seat assignments? Emily's getting very nervous watching this happen because these people are confused. And what happened, man, I've never seen this before. The flight attendants came up to the front. They did one more count and then went up and down. They told everybody on the PA, hey, nobody move seats. Sit still. We got people that need seats. The flight attendant's like, all right, next 5, come with me. And one flight attendant walks down the aisle, and the other flight attendant goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 5 people walk down. I guess they find them a seat, and they come back. They go, okay, next 5. Let's go find y'all seats and go down. And I'm like, what? Like, how do you even have an accurate, like, roster of who's on this flight or in what seat or what? And Emily is like, not having. She's like, nope. Like that. I'm so uncomfortable now. What is going on here? And like, I'm just chuckling and laughing. The flight attendants are all annoyed, and then finally the gate agent shows up and they start bickering, and there's other like 5 passengers sitting there like, in the jet bridge, like, do I have a seat? Like, what's going on here? Like, so we finally board. Because of all this, we leave about 20 minutes late. Whatever, no big deal. There's air traffic control flow into Orlando anyways, which happens apparently every day now, as I'm learning. So Emily's just really uncomfortable. And about that time, the lady next to her, yes, it just could not get any better than this. The lady next to her busts out the massive bag of Popeyes and just starts going to town.
Love that chicken and Popeyes.
Pulls the tray table down while we're taxiing. Pulls her tray table down, just crushing mashed potatoes and fried chicken, right. And Emily's just looking at me like, me and Thomas and Mary are in our 3 seats, and then Emily's across the aisle in the aisle by herself, and she's just like, "Get me out of here!" And I'm like, "Oh, this is the best $19 I've ever spent for this."
You sent me a picture of her looking at you, and it was pretty special. I got to be honest, it was pretty.
So
special.
that was the guy shaving. 15 people just don't have seats, and they're just bringing 5 people at a time and finding them a place to sit. And Emily, and then the Popeyes gets busted out, and like, I just cannot hold it. It's just so awesome. Like, stereotypes are true for a reason. Like, I don't care about any of this because we paid $19 and the flight's going to be safe. And we only got through 20 minutes late.
Beautiful thing,
dude. But then yesterday, right? So we're bailing out of Orlando. At time of recording, huge storm in Orlando yesterday. It's going up the East Coast now. We know it's going to be bad. They canceled Jollywood Nights at Disney last night. So I'm like, man, this Orlando airport's going to be another just chaos, which it was, man. It was super busy. A lot of people trying to get out. The lounges were on waiting lists, but flight's on time. We actually started to board early. I'm tracking our inbound flight. It's awesome. This is when my daughter is still in the throes of being sick. Poor thing, missed the last day of Epcot. So Emily has to take her to the bathroom right before we board. So me and Thomas are standing there. Young woman in her early 20s. She just looks very disheveled. Just has like 18 bags, has a stroller with call it a 2 or 3-year-old in it. She just looks like she's having a rough day. She turns around very quickly, looks at me and says, "Will you watch my son? I've got to go over there real quick." And I was like, before I was like, what? So she flips the stroller around. I'm looking at this little dude locked in there. And she, like, before I can even realize it, all I hear, man, is she is puking her guts out in the trash can right at the boarding gate behind ours. And she is like, it is like everybody in the gate area. This lady is like, she's not like quietly. She's like, she is up chucking everything she's got. So like, I'm looking at this little kid, feeling terrible for her. I think dude, you just tell them people got a lot going on in life. And Thomas is looking at me like, "What's going on, Dad?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man." So I look at the little dude. I'm like, "You good, little dude?" And then so she is like really being sick. She comes back, and I'm like, "My daughter's sick too. Do you need anything? I've got, we're all armed up here with medicine or sick bags or everything." She's like, "No, I'm good now." And like, she doesn't like rinse her mouth out, go to the bathroom, brush teeth, nothing. She like just grabs the kid in the stroller and like starts to walk down the jet bridge. And I'm like, "What just happened?"
Hey, more power to her.
All the empathy in the world. Yeah, more power to her. All the empathy in the world for whatever people got going on in their lives. But I was like, Emily comes back and like we're late boarding because the other people boarded. So this is when the whole put your bags down over the wing.
Yeah.
And Emily's like, "What?" Emily was like, "What?" And I was like, "I don't even know how to explain to you what." But the lady in front of us with the stroller is very sick. So let's stay about 10 feet back from her on the jet bridge. But dude, Emily's like, "Frontier." I'm like, "Yeah, it's so awesome." And so the Frontier tail. But hey, we landed 20 minutes early yesterday, man. We pushed back 5 minutes early from the gate. Landed 20 minutes early. I'm all in on Frontier. I think it's just fantastic value, but you are gonna see some strange things, man. And that's my Frontier stories. That's the Frontier tales for the week. Yeah. And I hope that lady, young mother, I hope she's having a much better day than she was yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I've always subscribed to the belief. For folks that don't know, there's an upscale steakhouse called Morton's. It's not necessarily one of my favorites today, but I used to love it back in the day, before they changed
It's a good place.
the way it the atmosphere and all that. But I always like say, like, I don't go to Morton's expecting McDonald's. I don't go to McDonald's expecting Morton's. Like you get what you pay for. Like if if you're on Frontier, like it is what it is, and because it's so cheap, you're going to get a lot of inexperienced travelers. But from a pricing standpoint, I mean, if they still had the schedule that they used to have out of Dulles, yeah, I mean, I would especially for flights like going to Orlando, where I think the spread of inexperienced passengers narrows considerably on flights to destinations like Orlando and Vegas and Cancun and places like that. So on United, I mean, I'm going to have a whole ton of people who don't fly very often who are doing the family Mickey vacation. So those flights are very similar to Frontier in terms of getting people situated in seats and, passenger etiquette and all that stuff. So if you told me I could, like I'm probably going to do the Frontier status match again because it really helped me for work the last time I did it. But, I would love it if they brought back that Frontier Dulles Orlando flight in some sort of regularity because for $20, like, sure, why not? I mean, the downside to Frontier for me is twofold. First, it's the tray tables are just not something you can work on. So if you're going to be on a long flight with them and you need to work on your computer, it's just, you're literally sitting it on your lap. And they don't have Wi-Fi. So Orlando's probably the longest segment I would consider with them on any sort of a work trip, about 2 hours for me. But short of that, I mean, I think they're just as good as all the other carriers for stuff like that. So
Got a lot of questions on Instagram about the comfort of the seats. There's new interiors on some of the planes, and we had a new interior on both there and back. The extra legroom seats, man, are more comfortable to me than any United seat that I've flown this year, and they're the exact same as Delta. Like it's not just like they are the slimline, but so is everybody. I thought the seat was just as padded and as comfortable, and it's actually like very nicely kind of embroidered on the back. No complaints about the comfort of the seat whatsoever. And again, not a tiny guy, so if it's fine for me, I guarantee you it's fine for most people listening.
Yeah. On my side, nothing really remarkable for airplane flights. I had no idea that Delta had a nonstop from Orlando to National. So took that home, was actually relatively affordable even for December. My son and we snuck a quick weekend down at Disney to take advantage of the annual passes. Flights were dirt cheap using points, because there's this like sweet spot, like the first weekend in December that's a quieter time at Disney. But
Very quiet this week. Yeah.
I'd say there were two things that I would of note. Other than this, was a pretty standard Disney trip. First off, I was really surprised that we were able to get a pass holder discount for rooms at Disney All-Star Sports. I paid $130 something a night, which I think is an incredible rate for December. Swan Dolphin was, I mean, every bit of like 85,000 points a night, and the cash rates were disgusting. So $135 a night sounded excellent to me. And the next cheapest Disney property for that time period that we were going was 400 and change. And I think that was Coronado. So definitely like the 135. They just finished renovating the rooms at All-Star, and I didn't realize this, but the room description is, I think, a little bit misleading because it says it's one queen bed and one wall pull down. And so I was thinking of like Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort, they have this like fold down day bed that's kind of tiny, and my son is now my height, so those beds, like, they kind of work for him but kind of not, and that's what I thought they had done. But what they've done to all the All-Star Sports rooms, I actually like. I wish the walls were thicker because I could hear the guy next to me yelling at his kids the whole time we were there. Thankfully, you're not in your room for very long at Disney if you're doing it right. But what they do now is it's a 2-bedroom. They're both queen beds, except the other queen bed is similar to the Art of Animation family suites, so except a little bit smaller. It's a 2-person table with 2 chairs, and then it folds down. The table sort of like folds down as part of the Murphy bed, and it's another queen bed, and you just put the chairs to the side. So I find that really convenient, especially if you're thinking about putting 4 people in that room, which I just but having that space, so you got a small refrigerator in the room. I guess you call it a chiller because it's not technically a refrigerator, but you got space underneath the bed to put suitcases. The toilet and shower are separate from the bathroom, so 2 people can get ready at the same time. Like, they're small footprint rooms, but I think Disney put a lot of thought into how to make them useful. So in the morning, it's like, hey, if you want to feed your kids a little something, maybe you've got, some juice or something and some pastries or whatever in the fridge, you fold that one bed up and the kids can sit down and eat while mom and dad get ready for the parks. Like, it's functional space.
Yeah, we had the exact same layout at Pop Century this week in the new renovated rooms, and thought it was fantastic. And we had 4 people in our room. Although we did have a connecting room with my dad in there. But Dad, if you listen to this, it's fine, but you snore, so the kids wouldn't be able to sleep. although
Me too.
although Thomas did end up sleeping with him in the Murphy bed because we wanted to keep him away from Mary, who got sick the last day. But I thought those rooms were great. Really no complaints. And again, the rates, like this week was a down week in between the holiday. Well, holidays always going on, but
Yeah.
man, there was like Epcot in the morning we were there. Ain't nobody there. I mean, the kids popped in Magic Kingdom just to ride Tron. Really like wait times and hit a couple rides on the way out. But I think I paid $190 for Pop Century,
Yeah.
which the key there is it's on the Skyliner, which was fantastic. But I thought the new rooms were fantastic, and those Murphy beds are great.
Yeah, I would definitely would have done Pop Century for Skyliner. The other small thing, not small thing, but I guess my little humorous part, and then just sort of like really understanding the crowd mentality at Disney. It still does get really crowded on the weekends, even on these like sneaky quiet times. So I had Magic Kingdom locked in. My son wanted to start at Hollywood Studios. I just stacked the heck out of annual Genie's rides. So I had Mine Train, Haunted Mansion, Buzz Lightyear, Jungle Cruise, and Tron Paid Lightning Lanes, all set up for the evening. I'm like, oh, Pirates too. So we had like we were set. And son's not feeling well as we walk into Magic Kingdom around 5ish. We do Buzz Lightyear, and he's like, Dad, I can't do Tron. Maybe I can do Pirates. And so for, pro tip for folks who don't know, if you do buy Lightning Lanes, the Blue Umbrellas or guest services folks will refund you if something goes wrong. And so I walked over, I'm like, hey, my son's feeling bad. They refunded us, no problem. Took 5 minutes. Okay. We're walking across Magic Kingdom Pirates, and he's like, Dad, I just can't. Like I'm feeling miserable. Is there
perfect evening goes downhill.
Yeah. Is there a bathroom nearby? And so he goes to the bathroom for a while. We then walk through the big store on Main Street to get out because he's done. And he's clutching his stomach. He's like, Dad, I can't get on the monorail. I'm not going to make it. My stomach's too upset. So we walked the long way around the Grand Floridian to the Grand Floridian, the bridge and the lake. And he's like, okay, the walking's making me feel better. I'll save you the gory details, but he goes into a bathroom at the Grand Floridian and comes out the happiest kid in the world. At this point, it's like 9 o'clock. And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to go back in the parks. And it's like,
you're a better man than me, man.
So
did you go
it was
back?
a 2-day trip, man. So I turn around. We hopped on the monorail, and the fireworks are just finishing, the first fireworks. And the stream of humanity coming at us is massive. Like, it's just this wall of people. And so we get all the way through the wall of people exiting the parks. And now we're on Main Street. And I'm like, all right, all these people left. It's going to be better. And we got up to where Casey's Corner is, the hot dog place that's right by the castle. And we're just full stop. So even with thousands of people letting out after the fireworks, we still were full on salmon trying to swim upstream to Pirates. So just a reminder that even when it's a little quieter, there's still a sea of humanity at Disney this time of year.
Yeah, the morning at Epcot was so chill and nobody was there, and we were basically done with all the rides. We could have been done so early. My daughter got sick, so unfortunately Mrs. Kerr stayed back at the hotel with her, and then we switched off about 4 o'clock so Emily could come back and do the candlelight processional, and was my dad and with Thomas. And she said that it was, and my dad, when they got back to the room after candlelight processional, and then they did Living with the Lamb with the Christmas lights and a few other rides, they were both like, Epcot got scary crowded tonight. Like when you hit those walkways, to your point, this time of year, man, it was, been there before, where you can like barely move even when the sidewalks are at their widest, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of people.
Here's my one Disney complaint from the trip, I will say. So it used to be that you had festival seasons, which were shoulder seasons around spring break, and then the long part of the fall where there's like not a whole lot going on in terms of park capacity. And now they do a winter festival. And I got to tell you, like, I do love some of the food options, but the temporary booths that now restrict the walkways at Epcot need to be gone in December. Like, that's just a no, hard no, because it makes it so much harder to get around.
Those festival booths are permanent now for all intents and
They
purposes.
really are.
And there's almost,
Yeah.
almost always a festival going on. It's fun. Dude, that stuff, like, I don't know. I just ignore it all. Like, I am there for the rides and maybe a few shows.
Yeah,
and I'm not there
give it a little time. It's all about age of kids, because now my daughter, like, we were talking about, she's going to college this year, and I was like, hey, like, if we can't find something cool for spring break, which is going to be a good segue to our Air France discussion, what do you think about, going, like, doing a last Disney trip with the family before you go to college? And she says, well, I mean, is there a festival going on at Epcot during spring break? And of course my answer was, well, there's always a festival at Epcot. But
yeah,
like,
there's always a festival.
But for her age, she's like, I want to go around and taste food. I mean, obviously not drink booze just yet, but she wants to go around and taste the food and enjoy the countries and stuff like that. So when your kids are a little older, once they get to like 12, you will spend more time walking slowly in Epcot. So It just is what it is, man.
And paying $8 for a little bite size of something that's probably incredibly
12,
mediocre.
yeah. And there's no
Yeah,
$8. There's no
12.
$8 bites of anything.
Dude, we did splurge. We'll get off Disney. Did the Enchanted Rose cocktails at Grand Floridian because we went in there and checked out the Christmas tree at the gingerbread house, and it's just a cool place to walk around. And my dad would like that. The seasonal old fashioned at the Enchanted Rose, which is the Beauty and the Beast theme lounge. They don't take reservations, walk in only. We happen to be there right when they open, so got a table for the kids. Kids can go until 6 p.m. Old fashioned was fantastic, dude. It was so good, but it was one and done. It was a $26.50 old fashioned that they sell for the seasonal old fashioned, man. So I was like, wow, hello New York City.
I like it. I go back.
I'll just order a cheaper drink next time. Even though my dad was very kind. He picked up the tab for the old fashioned and the cocktail family. But I was like, yeah, Dad, let me pay for this, man. I got a discounted gift card. He's like, no, I'll do it. And I was like, okay. Well, thanks, Dad, for that old fashioned, but I don't think I could do it again.
All right, so spring break transition to this Air France thing. And to be clear, this happened Friday, so we're not sure if these are going to be honored yet. And I think this is a great time to talk about our sponsor this week, Thrifty Traveler Premium, who sponsored the show the last few weeks. And I got a heads up on this deal from them. I got a text message, which is one of the options you get when you sign up for their premium service. And I actually got easily a 3-hour head start before anybody started publishing it, and call it probably 4 or 5 hours. So everybody wrote about this. Gary View from the Wing, Spencer Straight from the Points, even Dan's deals covered it. So it was pretty widespread. But those were all, in the afternoon. And I got this alert first thing late morning, had a few hour head start. Availability was really good. That was for the more expensive of the two deals. But at any rate, this is one of the things, text alerts, emergency, holy cow, mistake fare, deal alert sort of stuff that you get with Thrifty Traveler Premium. And if you want to sign up and support the show, we're offering $10 off an annual membership by using the code GO10 when you sign up for Thrifty Traveler Premium. Somebody finished their workday at Air France on Friday, kicked the power cord out on some very important server, and then headed for the weekend. And what people were finding so the first round of these were, call it 13 to 15,000 mile one-way flights in business class from a handful of Canadian airports to places in Europe. And that was an incredible deal. Off the charts good. When you think the cheapest we normally find is 50,000 when you got a great deal. So 15,000 was like, whoa. Now there were some taxes involved. Call it $250 one way. And you had to get to these Canadian airports. And so they were, in order of popularity, Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa being the hardest to get to cheaply. But the key here, and for folks that are looking for ways to find cheap flights in the future, the key here actually turned out to be to find train connections in Paris. So airport codes to Lille and Provence were the keys for this one. And then it got better. So I leave the house, I called a couple people about it. I'm like, hey, you should jump on this. I know you got a trip coming up. And then it got insane because it went from 15,000 miles one way in business class to 1,500 miles one way in business class. And I booked 2 of these for my friend, for friends. I didn't book any for myself. I think you booked Florence?
I did, yeah. Booked Florence, not for 1,500 miles, but for 13,500 for the adults and 10,250 for the kids. So 47,000 all in for 4 of us in business class. Toronto to Florence. And it lines up excellent because I have to go to Toronto for business anyway. So I'm just going to fly the kids and Emily up a few days before, and I'll already be there, and we'll hop over and check out Florence. We were talking about it this morning over breakfast, actually. I'm pretty excited about it.
And for what it's worth, you can probably, actually, I don't know, does Porter fly to Atlanta?
They do not.
Oh, okay. Because they fly a bunch from
I really wish I could do Billy Bishop. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because they announced an airline agreement with Alaska, and they said reciprocal mileage earning next year with Alaska. So now Alaska is partnered with pretty much every airline in the free world. But yeah, I'm looking forward to having the ability to earn Alaska miles on my Porter flights to Canada in the future. But at any rate, this was one of those things that doesn't come along that often. Used to come along a ton when you and I were first getting in the miles and points game, and then in the 10 years before you got into the miles and points game and I was in my 30s, it used to come along really frequently. But I think it's proof that there are still deals out there. I think we're waiting to see if these are going to get honored. I unfortunately couldn't find any for my spring break dates, but it's also why you should follow the blogs or listen to our podcast or stuff like that, because there are going to be these opportunities where a couple of folks I talk to who they always make fun of me. They're like, "What? You're going to New Zealand for 5 days in December?" And they laugh like, "You're crazy, Ed." And those are the people that when I told them they could go to Paris for 1,500 miles one way, they're like, I'll book it. I'm like, on one condition. Like, what? You can never make fun of me again for sporadic, just like a spur of the moment trip. And they're like, okay, deal. Just book this for me, Ed.
Ran into some usual. So it's not always a seamless process. I tried to ticket 3 different times and almost gave up because something just happens weird with the KLM and Air France websites often when trying to book with
Yeah, I was
tickets.
gonna say that wasn't unique to this deal. That just their website's
unique.
not great.
It happens. So sometimes you see these things show up on the calendar. You see the fare calendar. So if you search one-way award tickets and you leave the departure date blank, it brings up a calendar of availability for every month and every day of the month.
Yep.
And you'll see it says like there's several days that said 47,000 miles. You click on through it and the price doesn't show up, or it's a different date, and then I fill out all the information and then it tells me it's not available anymore. Could have been availability going away that fast, but I doubt it. But eventually did, get it to go through, and I hope it sticks, man. I actually texted our guy over there waiting on the response to be like, hey man, you guys gonna let these tickets stick so I can book my hotels?
Yeah, I do think you're right that sometimes the availability isn't accurate on their site. On this one, Gary Few from the Wing broadcasted it, Dan's Deals broadcasted it, and the inbound calls I was getting from people when I put my post up about it, I do think at least some of the craziness I was seeing in inventory was this one got hit hard. So which is twofold. One, it subscribes to the strategy, like you said, of if you try to click and you can't book, you really should try a few more times, especially with airlines like Air France and KLM, because it may take a few times to score a deal when there's a bunch of stuff going on like this. And then the other thing is, it's just, further, proof of why you want to stay in tune to some degree for some of the stuff, because these deals they're not once in a lifetime, obviously, but these are, I would say this is by far the best deal of 2023. And I'd be surprised if we see something this good in 2024 that was this widely available. Like, sometimes it'd be like, hey, on March 23rd, you can find 10,000-mile one-way tickets to Athens. But this was, dozens of dates, January through May, multiple cities. It was pretty widespread. And also, even though like Ottawa's a little bit obscure, Toronto, Montreal, pretty easy to get to for a lot of the country.
Yeah, just trying to figure out the cheapest way to position the family to Atlanta to Toronto, which is going to be more expensive than the business class flight to Florence.
I have a friend of mine who lives in Seattle. I don't know if he listens to the pod. I know he follows my blog, but he was texting me he's like, hey, I'm not finding these. And I gave him a couple of dates that worked, and he's like, oh my gosh, and he booked a bunch. And then he texted me back like the later that night because the only thing he could find that worked for him for dates were Ottawa. And he said, sadly, I finally had to cancel because getting from Seattle to Ottawa was like 3 times as expensive as the tickets from Ottawa forward. So it is what.
That's why I was looking for Toronto hard, because there's Air Canada and Delta fly Atlanta multiple flights a day. So I was like, we'll figure out one of these. So what I think we're actually going to do is, since we're going to be Toronto anyways, is check out Niagara Falls a few days before as a family and show the kids Niagara Falls. So like a Niagara Falls, Florence, Venice itinerary, probably never been done before, but we'll tackle it hard. It'll be awesome.
Well, and I think our buddy Howie said, I think he's planning to fly into Montreal and then drive to Ottawa.
He's going to take the train to Ottawa, I think he said.
Train, yeah. And it's like, I don't remember. I think I've done this drive. It's a couple hours, so it's not horrible. But I think the train would be the way, because I think I saw like one-way car rentals in Canada are like unicorns. So, but yeah, so that's the deal on the Air France thing. And then lastly, wrapping up, the ding, man. Bilt has added yet another transfer partner, Avianca Life Miles. Are you excited about this one?
Yeah, I don't think we would have done it if we weren't excited about it, to state the obvious. But yeah, look, man, my job is twofold on a day-to-day basis. One is protect the value of the Bilt currency, and number 2 is increase the value of the Bilt currency. And these valuable transfer partners are certainly a way to make it happen. Shout out to all the people at Bilt that made it happen and brought the deal in. Excited to go down to Costa Rica and meet these folks in person, where Life Miles is based. Again, not Avianca, the airline's not based in Costa Rica, but Life Miles, kind of a third-party company, kind of like an airplane deal, where they're kind of their own little company. Spun out or down there. But they've been awesome. They've been great. Everybody should be very familiar with the best uses of Life Miles, and we're excited that Bilt points can now instantly transfer over to them right in the Bilt app. So 16th transfer partner, 13th airline, and we're not done, man. We'll keep looking at how to increase the value of the currency.
And in normal Bilt fashion, you can earn 100 points just for linking Bilt to your Life Miles account. So even if it's not something that's appealing to you right now, makes sense to link it. And then I think too, like this Air France deal is another emphasis point on why it makes sense to sign up for accounts like linking your Bilt and Avianca accounts, because man, you don't want to get to, deal day and it's incredible and you don't have your accounts linked and then you're trying to figure it out and there's a technical glitch. Like, just do it now. Just link it now. And when
Yeah.
and when the deal comes, you'll be ready. I'm not saying you should transfer miles without knowing what you're going to do with them, but get it all linked and get it all set up. That's the right call.
Because that deal could be a rent day, and you don't want to get to rent day where
Right.
there could be an outrageous, could be, not saying there will be, could be an outrageous transfer promotion to Life Miles. So go ahead and link those built in Life Miles account so you don't have to worry about it if a rent day comes around.
Yeah. So wrapping up, I think you're done at this point for the year for travel flights.
What was that music?
I don't know.
Was that your
my
ringer?
phone? My phone just somebody tried to call twice. That's bizarre.
You're simply the best.
I am simply the best.
Yeah, man. So as of right now, done with travel for the year, although I'm really feeling a bowl game trip. So Georgia Tech is playing in the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa. And it's the first
what
time Georgia Tech's
bowl?
been in a bowl game. Gasparilla. You don't know what Gasparilla is? Go Google it. Gasparilla. It's like Mardi Gras for Tampa.
Goat rope and Gasparilla. What is up with you today, man?
I didn't invent Gas. I didn't invent either of these. But Georgia Tech is playing the University of Central Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl the Friday before Christmas. So this is 2 days after this episode releases. Frontier flies Atlanta to Tampa for dirt cheap, man, so we can go. And believe it or not, I know you're going to be shocked, but the Gasparilla Bowl is not one of the top echelon of bowl games where tickets are just
What?
outrageously expensive.
What?
I know. So me and Thomas might scoot down to Tampa, which is why I've been trying to score the Burns reservation so I can bring Thomas to get some Burn steak.
What
and that whole
stadium? What
experience.
stadium in Tampa do they play in? They play at the Buck Stadium.
The
Whatever it's
Tampa Bay
called?
Buccaneers. Yeah, they're at the
Okay.
Buccaneer Stadium. Raymond James Stadium, I think it is. Yeah. So if we go anywhere, it will be to the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa to check out Georgia Tech, bring home the bowl victory.
Yeah. All right. Well, wish you luck with that. Is that what I'm supposed to do? Okay. Well,
It'll be fun.
yeah, good luck with that. So what do we got next week? I definitely want to recap the year. I've looked at my flighty stats, and they're pretty disgusting. We're also going to be recording a segment this week. I got to talk with you on schedule, see if we can work it out. If not, I'll be doing it on my own. But we've got one last fundraiser for the year. We talked a little bit about this right when we started the Slack community. One of our Slack members supports a charity called Pinky Swear that does some great things with kids. In case you haven't maxed out your giving for the year, end of the year time, if you got company matches, we're going to have, Richard, not just a 100% match on the first $500 in donations, but a 200% match. So I will be matching all donations that people make off of next week's show, and our Slack member, Corey, is going to be matching as well. So if you're interested in donating and you haven't finished up your charitable giving for the year, hold on for just a little bit longer, and we're going to have the CEO of Pinky Swear on to talk more about what they do. And then we're going to have some matching stuff behind it. So end the year on a high note, and then I want you, Richard, to be prepared. Get over the goat rope and bring your flighty stats for the last episode of the year. And then maybe we'll start the year breaking down our credit cards because our buddies Summer and Julian want to come back on the show. They listen every week to everything we say, and they're desperate to come back on the show with us.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Not a chance. But Julian did actually listen to a podcast. He listened to my other podcast talking about travel, so proud of him. So lots more stuff to come as we sit here near the end of December. I have exactly 0 flights booked for myself. I have nothing booked for next year. So we got a clean canvas to figure it all out. We got lots of stuff to figure out in the new year. We'll close it out with a little bit of fundraising and a little bit of recap on our travels with all the excitement that was 2023. But until we upload again, we've got miles to go.
Yeah, man, it's a goat rope down there.